Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Austin Talley. I'm your virtual moderator for today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us again for day 2 of Unleashing the Power of Partnerships. We're going to get started here in just a few more minutes. We want to give everyone a chance to get logged in and get settled. Again, thank you so much. We are looking forward to today's presenters. We got a really great lineup for you, and we can't wait to show you what we have in store. Thank you so much, and we'll get started in just a few more minutes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Austin Talley. I am your virtual moderator for today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us of day 2 of Unleashing the Power of Partnerships. We're super excited about the lineup that we have today. We had a really, really great day yesterday. It was a lot of fun, a lot of insight, a lot of sharing, and we are confident that day 2 is going to be even better. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started today. If you have any problems at all, if you can't see or you can't hear, any technical issues at all on the platform today, please feel free, reach out to us. You can reach out to us through the chat, or you can reach out to us by responding to the email that you received with your confirmation in it, and we'll be more than happy to help you get squared away. Additionally, we're going to be sharing the digital agenda with you in the chat as well. The digital agenda is designed to help you navigate everything that we have to offer during the conference. So if you're interested in joining some of our breakout sessions that we're going to be doing a little bit later, those are going to be sessions where you'll have a chance to ask really thoughtful, deep, introspective questions of some of our presenters to really deep dive and get those answers that you're looking for. Just refer to your digital agenda. That'll help you leave the main session, go to those breakout sessions, and then come back from those breakout sessions once they are over. Thank you so much again for joining us today. And to kick it off, we're going to go over to serial founder and executive of Philadelphia, Kristen Clark. Kristen?
Thank you so much, Austin. And since we're being super transparent with our technical questions, I just want to make sure, can you hear and see me okay?
Loud and clear.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much. And just like Austin said, welcome to the COI Ladder Institute's day 2 of Unleashing the Power of Partnerships. So today we are going to be focused on partnering with investors, building your brand, getting to connect with some incredible thought leaders in this space. And I just wanted to take a minute and be able to say, when we come and get this incredible opportunity to think about partnerships and how we show up with investors and how we show up building our brand, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure how we're showing up as who we are is completely celebrated and approved. So I just want to welcome the heck out of everyone and say, like, welcome in your pajamas. I hope that if you're really doing like the Zoom, the conference top shirts with the pajama bottoms, I want to welcome you with the kids, with the family, with the dogs, with the cats, with the male people maybe knocking things off or having things delivered outside. I want to welcome that we apparently are in August, but it feels like the 157th day of March. And and even though we all wish that things were different, it's just incredible to see and witness everyone show up here exactly as you are. And I just want to encourage today throughout the entire set of like the different breakout sessions and the conversations and the things that you're going to be hearing, is to still bring that full self, bring that self that has questions, that feels like you may not know everything, that has a lot of questions and excitement to offer, and just bring everything that you can, because the more you can bring and the way that you show up is the way that you're going to show up in those partnerships. It's the way that you're going to show up in those brands. So welcome. Today's going to be amazing. I also want to do a huge shout out and thank you to our sponsors, because without them, this would not be possible. So our unicorn sponsor, SVB, amazing. They're going to be talking more later. Our partnership sponsors, SAPIO, Morgan Stanley, our seed sponsor, Cooley, our startup sponsor, Grasshopper Bank, and then our incredible conference sponsor and host, COI Energy, because it is these people and these organizations that really believe in the power of women, power of startups, the power of technology to really change the world. And we are so incredibly grateful for their support. And so with that, I'm gonna get us over to start the party going, and have a wonderful, wonderful day and a great session. And thank you again. Welcome.
Thank you so much for that, Kristen. That was an excellent welcome. I think you got everybody there, everyone who's joining us with the business top and the pajama bottoms. I felt like you were speaking to me there for a moment. Thank you so much, Kristen. And now we're gonna have a founder story with founder and CEO of Blendor, Stephanie Lampkin. Stephanie?
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Happy to be here. So I am going to dive right in and share my screen. Let's make sure we have audio working. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to go a bit quickly, but feel free to, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Hey, Stephanie. Yeah, I'm just going to lend a quick hand.
Yep.
So you probably are working on 2 screens, right?
Yes.
So if you click share screen again,
okay.
When you click share screen, you want to select the screen that's full screen for your PowerPoint. Right now, we can see your sort of presenter side.
Okay.
You want us to see that other screen where your entire presentation is. And then click on where your excellent. So yeah, now we can see that. And then on your presentation side, click use presenter view. You should see it where your presenter, where you can see your presenter slides on your other screen. There you go. We just want to be able to make sure you can advance. Perfect. Yeah. All right, you're good to go. Oh, I think we lost your audio there somehow. And give us just one moment, folks. We're going to keep working to get Stephanie's audio back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning and telling you guys a little bit about my founder story. So I'm originally from the DC area, was born in Southeast DC to be exact. Very humble beginnings. My mom was homeless for a bit while pregnant with me. And as fate would have it, she moved to DC to move in with her sister, who is a computer scientist at the University of Maryland. So that same auntie is who introduced me to tech. I started coding at 13 through a nonprofit organization called Black Data Processing Associates, such that I was a full stack developer by 15, and fortunate to get into Stanford. Earned an engineering degree from Stanford, had a technical internship every year, thanks to an organization called Inroads. And it led to Microsoft calling me my senior year, inviting me to come work for them as a technical account manager. And I spent about 5 years at Microsoft, realized that there was very limited trajectory, so decided to quit and go to MIT for business school. And about 6 months after graduating from MIT, I interviewed for an analytical lead role at Google in New York. I was a referral through another MIT classmate, made it through the final rounds, thought it went really well, but the recruiter came back and said, sorry, we don't think you're quite technical enough, but we're going to hang on to your resume in case some more sales or marketing position opened up. And I later found out that Google and quite a few other companies at the time, this was right around 2014, published their diversity numbers showing that they were about 2% Black, 3% Latino. And the narrative was that it was a pipeline problem. So I took my non-technical self and built the first version of Blendor, focused on leveraging technology to connect companies with diverse talent in a scalable way. So fast forward to today, 7 years later, and a lot of these numbers for tech companies look the same, and particularly for African Americans. There has been almost no improvement despite billions of dollars of investment and a lot of attention to the pipeline. So if we actually look at pipeline data, we see there's quite a bit of diversity at the entry level and even mid-level, but that gradually declines. And probably the steepest decline is for women of color as you get higher and higher up in the ranks. So we partner with a lot of these sort of what we call pipeline filler organizations that have been around for, in some cases, 40 years now, and some new entrants. And also, you know, the 107 historically Black colleges and universities, such that we know that it's not a pipeline problem, right? But companies are still sort of getting by with saying we're working on that, right? Or we're starting with gender. So we took a step back and created a product a few years ago called Blend Score. Kind of think of it like a diversity, equity, and inclusion credit score, where we look at the percentage of women and people of color on your board, your executive team, your overall US workforce diversity numbers, and then whatever benefits, programs, partnerships, and initiatives you have in place focused on creating a more equitable and inclusive workforce. We rated and ranked companies, and all of a sudden, once we made this public, there was such a greater sense of urgency for companies to move. And so we've doubled down on this product, really with the thesis that you can't fix what you don't measure. And we're growing tired of a lot of the statements and pledges, which we've seen an upswing in over the past few months, but not a lot of accountability and transparency. And that's really what I've been trying to drive. So we've gotten a ton of awards and recognition and a lot of great press. I've been on the cover of several magazines, Fortune 40 Under 40, all that's great. But the irony is it hasn't translated into investment. As some of you may know, Black women receive about 0.0006% of venture capital. There's only about 50 of us in the world that have ever raised more than $1 million in venture capital. And I think the challenge is we still have the paradigms of innovation rooted in white and Asian maleness. So whether pitching a Caucasian investor, a Black investor, a female investor, a male investor, we are all sort of the victims of unconscious bias, which limits our possibilities for not only investing in diverse founders, hiring diverse people, but also understanding the ways in which bias impact how we network and how we leverage resources outside of traditional paths. So I created an organization called Visible Figures, a little side hustle, just to create our own little Good Old Girls network. So it started off with the 30 or so Black women that had raised $1 million or more, and those that are sort of on track to. And now we have over 130 Black female CEOs of tech or tech-enabled venture-backed startups, which includes 21 Harvard grads, 15 YC alum. We've raised over $2 billion, and leveraging the smart matching technology that we've had with Blendor so that we can use AI and people analytics to facilitate more strategic network development that can lead to deals. Hires and wires is kind of the tagline that everyone is sort of promoting now, because we're tired of just the pledges and the statements without the outcomes. So probably one of the best accolades I've received to date was being invited to the first ever White House Demo Day. See if this video plays. Nope, okay. Well, we'll skip ahead. For some reason, videos aren't playing in the screen share, but I will just narrate over. So I actually received feedback from a very notable diverse investor that there were concerns about my work around speaking on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and my personal story, and sharing just sort of my ideals around the impact of bias in hiring and investing in a lot of different events. And my sort of position is very similar to Serena, who was confronted by a famous tennis star that said, you know, maybe Serena, you should focus more on your tennis career and less on equity. And her statement was, you know, the day that I stop advocating for people who look like you and me will be the day I'm in my grave. And that was like a mic drop statement for me. And I think it's really consistent with how and why I have been able to persevere despite so many challenges, either in corporate America and now as a founder, because I understand the bigger picture and I'm betting on us. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Stephanie, that was excellent. I just want to invite everyone, we've got a few more minutes. If you have any questions at all, now was a great time to share. We're also going to open up a poll for you. Just one moment here. So this is our founder story poll. So just let us know what you thought about the session. There's a great comment here. I would love to hear about your fundraising journey to date and if you're currently raising or hyper-focused on building.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know there was Q&A. I am kind of off the fundraising bandwagon. I think many of us who've been in this game are a little bit jaded by the process. And so I'm doubling down on revenue and growth. We have seen a major influx in new interest in the product. And so I'm spending more of my energy focusing on how we can grow revenue than I am on how we can attract investors.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
And I'd like to do a shout out to Stephanie, my dear sister. This is Felisa, and I am a member of her Visible Figures group. And Stephanie, keep doing the good work you're doing, because you're making a difference in the lives of many of our female and especially Black founders. So I take my hat off to you any chance I get, because you're doing great work. Thank you. Thank you,
Felisa.
It's really great. Thank you so much for that, Stephanie. That was a very inspirational founder story. Oh, we do have one more question for you. How do you refresh yourself and stay encouraged while you're striving towards your purpose? That's great.
You know, a lot of it comes from the Visible Figures group and things like it, like surrounding myself with like-minded people that just remind me what I'm experiencing is not just me. I'm not alone. It just refreshes me. And I try to live a relatively balanced life. I mean, usually we're supposed to be on the vineyard this August. But I think for me, because I have been in predominantly white male spaces as a techie since 13, I've always prioritized creating what I call an alternate reality, where I just go out of my way to surround myself with like-minded people.
Great, 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 great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for your time. Really appreciate that. It's always just wonderful to hear stories of people, rising above, and just being incredibly prosperous with in the attempt to achieve their dreams. So thank you for that
Thank you
much. All right, everyone. So we're gonna head over. We've got a really, really great panel coming up. Our next panel is how we invest in times like these with the Climate and Clean Energy Program Officer at the Hewlett Foundation, Marilyn Waite. Marilyn?
Thank you so much. Every time I hear Stephanie speak, I learn something new. That was great. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm so happy to be here. We have a great panel lined up for you today. Needless to say, 2020 has been remarkable. And so we're talking about the investment ecosystem in light of everything, the uprising in racial equity and justice, and also COVID-19 and how that's impacting the investment ecosystem and the deals that are done today. So we have Greg Bennett from Kapoor Capital, Chelsea Roberts from HBCU VC, Laura Metcalf, the Social Entrepreneurs Fund, Sandra Moore from Advantage Capital, Denmark West from Connectivity Ventures, and Dr. Maureen Boyce from Good Growth Capital. Welcome. So I'd like to get us started by just doing a roundtable, a virtual roundtable, and ask you who you are and tell us about your firm. So I'll start with my upper left hand and go counterclockwise. Greg Bennett, you're up first.
Thanks, Marilyn. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg. I'm the Senior Associate in the investment team from Kapoor Capital. We are an early stage venture fund that invests in companies that are closing gaps of access, opportunity, and outcome for low-income communities and communities of color in the United States. It's a long one. And I am our lead on our sustainability investments. So for us, that's food and agriculture, energy, and infrastructure.
Thank you. Sandra.
Hi, I'm Sandy Moore, and I am with Advantage Capital. I'm a managing director here, and there are 14 of us, and I happen to be the only woman and the only person of color in that team. I really jazz those boys up, I tell you. And then my functional title is Chief Impact Officer. We're an interesting firm. We're a PE firm, and our funds are focused on providing capital to businesses and communities that are underserved. And we define underserved communities by geography, urban, rural, by sector or sectorally, and also by race and gender. We offer the full range of investment financing, from equity to debt to small business guaranteed government lending, stuff that's backed by SBA and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We invest in established and emerging companies, both startup and expansion investing. And we are here and ready. We invest for double bottom line impact, and we build our funds to accomplish that goal so that we have a mixture of private capital, incentivized capital, institutional money that's looking for the reasonable financial returns that we provide and the social impact that we provide. I'm one of the 14 that votes on every investment, and it's a pleasure to be here on this august panel.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Okay, Denmark, you're up next. I think you're on mute, Denmark.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me now? All right, fantastic. Thank you for that. My name is Denmark West. I'm a founding partner at Connectivity Ventures. We're a mission-oriented, early-stage fund focused on the future of work. We believe in a future that's more female, colorful, conscious, and connected. And we aspire to a future that elevates humanity in an increasingly automated and algorithmically driven world. Also a mouthful. See, I'm trying to be like Greg. The thing that we're starting to focus on is the transition from the philosophy of move fast and break things to move purposefully and fix things. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Denmark. Laura.
Hi, thanks so much, everyone. Really excited to be here again, although missing being out on Martha's Vineyard and our late night backdoor donut trips. um, I'm managing director at TCEF, the Social Entrepreneurs Fund, and somewhat similar to Greg, we are a small family of funds that's focused on increasing access and economic opportunity for low to moderate income communities. The third fund we are raising and deploying right now is focused on Americans or US based low income communities, I should say. We actually don't care about citizenship. And we tend to invest in three areas: financial inclusion, so alternative credit scoring methodologies, platforms that lower the cost of remittances, things like that. Digital health, so how do we improve outcomes, especially around chronic care management for low-income communities. And then finally, a third vertical, which I think we made up, which we call human services tech. But basically, platforms that help the systems that low-income people tend to operate in work better. So connection to social services, criminal justice communications, things like that. And I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you, Laura. Chelsea.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chelsea Roberts. I lead partnerships at HBCU BC. We aren't a fund similar to the rest of the folks on this panel, but our work really is around how capital is formed and distributed. And so we host a 2-year venture capital fellowship grounded on and around HBCU campuses. And yeah, we're raising a fund. We have a small portfolio where our fellows act as investment managers. And yeah, great to be here. I'm actually on Martha's Vineyard at the moment, but here virtually with you. So it's nice day to be here.
Enjoy for all of us, Chelsea.
Yes, I
am. Maureen.
Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all. I'm not far from you, Chelsea. I'm on the Cape, but unfortunately not on the Vineyard. And I missed last year. We were there last year, but not this year. So I'm Maureen Boyce. I am a founder and managing partner at Good Growth Capital. Good Growth Capital invests in early stage tech. So pre-seed, seed, Series A. And we do predominantly health tech, green tech, advanced materials, and a lot of data science. And obviously there's a lot of overlap with data sciences and the others. We do financial inclusion. We are an impact fund in both our 5 managing partners. 3 of them are women, and we have 1 Latino. We invest, of course, in a diverse CEOs and founding teams. And then our portfolio, we're proud to say, is quite impactful.
Thank you for that roundtable. So let's jump right into the moment that we find ourselves in. COVID-19 to begin with. We are still pretty much in lockdown. Cases are booming in the United States, although in places like New Zealand, there's 0 cases, for 100 days at least. So some hope in other parts of the world. How does that shape the investments? How does that shape how you view deals? How does that shape your current portfolio company? So let me start with the later stage. I'll start with Sandy in terms of private equity, and then I'll go backwards to earlier stage deals.
Well, the biggest challenge, and then I'll go to the opportunities very quickly. The biggest challenge for us is we like to see a company. We are not adverse to pre-revenue investment, not at all, because we've got the range from equity to deeply subordinated debt. We can go anywhere in the capital stack. And so we start by looking at the innovation, if you will, or the build out, if you will, and the people. So what COVID's done for us is made it very hard to do what is the beginning platform for us, and that is to see the business, to see the opportunity, and to meet the founder. And so that is a real challenge. We are trying to get through it. I think the thing that I would say is the opportunity here is that we're all now limited by the same game. And in that sense, my colleagues who are wonderful partners don't get to play golf either. They just get to look at a Zoom call. So I encourage, I say that the opportunity, particularly to women founders and people in business where capital is hard to get, is to use this opportunity, really looking at it as an equalized playing field, because everybody's on Zoom, and use everything you've got to really push yourself to the head of that path, because they're not going to the bathroom together, they're not going to the golf course, they're simply looking at you. So a challenge for us to get our money on the ground the way that we're used to, but an opportunity because we're really being forced to engage one-on-one with the face in front of us.
So I think, Maureen, I think you invest in hard tech, which might have some manufacturing. You might want to also visit sites. How does that impacting your work as well?
We're really lucky in that, obviously everyone's on Zoom, but we're really lucky in our portfolio companies are doing great. Health tech companies are just, up, up, up. One investment actually was for asthma, at-home asthma monitoring. Once COVID happened, it got early FDA clearance. And now it's cleared to any spirometer can do COVID testing actually so, and I can go through our portfolio on and on. So like 50% of our portfolio is health tech, it's all up. We have a lot of data science. These data scientists can work at home, they're not affected. They're like us, we know how to work remotely. We only have one company that had a delay out of 25, and that was a Swift Solar, perovskite solar panels. They took 2 months where they could not get in the lab. But other than that, sad to say that COVID is helping some of our portfolio companies. I don't like to say that, but we are not down. And I think it really depends on what you're investing in this market.
Got it. Chelsea, any insights from your work in terms of the types of investments that you're seeing and how this current environment is impacting that work?
Yeah, so we are raising a fund. We're thinking about, so our first, we have a small fund where our students write equity-free microgrants, and we piloted that earlier this year. And so our investment managers wrote checks in March, and then COVID hit. And so we've been kind of learning and teaching, how to invest during a crisis and how to manage a portfolio and what that means. And great lesson learned for young investors. But yeah, we're seeing really interesting companies, a lot of them in the health tech space. I mean, we invest like pre-seed, right? So we kind of fill the gap, that friends and family gap. A lot of the people who we're investing in our communities don't, have the dad or the uncle or the parents to give that first small check. So we're able to give the first small checks. And we have a program this summer with the city of LA, the mayor's office, and the Annenberg Foundation, where we've just closed applications for equity-free grants again this summer for founders from HBCUs. And we're seeing, to Maureen's point, a lot of health tech, and yeah, excited about that.
Do you have to be an HBCU graduate to qualify for financing? And in terms of the pipeline, is universities going virtual? Does that have any impact on that as well?
We've been thinking a lot about that. So to your first point, yes. So for all of our funds, university on your founding team, an HBCU grad or alum. So it just has to be some sort of affiliation to any of the historically Black colleges or universities. And then, so oftentimes the first year of our fellowship, students are on campus, they're hosting pitch competitions, they're having coffee chats, they're looking out for entrepreneurs, meeting with founders in their sort of ecosystem. Second year, they're able to invest. And so we're thinking through, I think sort of like the rest of us, how we can sort of build trust virtually, and how, because that's a huge sort of part of our process, how we can build trust and get to know some of our entrepreneurs on and around campus, through Zoom. And yeah, I think it should be interesting to see once the school year starts. A lot of the students will will be at home, but some of them will be sort of in pods together in various cities. Some of them are in Atlanta, so some of them will still be working together and sort of still on the ground and living together. So I think that model will help to propel us as we're looking for deals and looking for new entrepreneurs. And I think this is a great time for, to some of the earlier points, for entrepreneurs to raise their hand and say, you know, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you as an investor. And I've been working at home on whatever, you know, product, just because, you know, everyone has time for a 20-minute chat.
Marilyn, if I could just say one thing very quickly. Another thing that I've observed as a result of COVID is that we're willing, maybe we're odd, but we've been willing to make deeper investments, really bigger investments and a little more risk, where we've seen resiliency, particularly around our drug research and treatment research companies. We've been willing to go farther than we might have in different times.
And is that for existing portfolio companies or for newcomers?
That's been for portfolio companies because they're really demonstrating that ability with resilience and that willingness to pivot. And we've been putting our money behind that.
Got it. So I want to move on to Laura, because you said that your fund addresses low-income communities, which are particularly hit right now with COVID. Could you say more about that nexus and how that has influenced the deals that you're looking at today?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is having an impact. And I kind of echo everything that others have said. You know, diligence is a bit harder now. It's, you know, it's not impossible, but it takes a bit longer. And there are moments where in our diligence process where we're saying to ourselves, wow, do the co-founders really get along? Do they like each other? And historically, that would have been something like you'd go out to dinner and you'd kind of be able to see somebody with a glass of wine in an environment and be able to test, like, is that a good relationship or not? Is there going to be stress there? And things like that, where now we're kind of left guessing because it's really hard to tell over Zoom if like they're seeing eye to eye or not, for instance. But in terms of our thesis, absolutely. I mean, in our portfolio, we have a couple of companies that have tried to extend credit and to low-income communities that maybe paused for a month or two, but now we're starting to ramp back up and seeing, you know, the fact that there's not a lot of credit available right now for these communities, and they're able to supply it in an ethical and non-predatory way. A lot of remote learning. You know, we're an investor in a platform called Climb Credit, which offers high student ROI loans for career and technical education. So they look at how much are you borrowing versus what's your expected earnings increase to make sure those two things make sense together, and also only work with schools that support completion and job placement and have really great track records. So that kind of thing continues. The interesting dialogue for us maybe has been, you know, we were looking really deeply at a wealth creation platform for the Latinx community, and going through a variety of different ways, from emergency savings to small retirement accounts, and then branching from there. And right now we have a discussion over, is this the right time? Certainly that's highly needed, but then we're also looking at a company that's similar, that's focusing a little bit more on credit workouts, like ethical credit workouts. So if people are going to get buried by inability to pay loans as we come out of this economic downturn, is that a better place to focus now in terms of it's going to be greatly needed and needs to be part of this kind of platform offering? So those are the types of discussions that I think we're still working through in real time. I mean, there's so many problems to solve, and some of it, I mean, we're a small fund, we're, you know, 4 people. And so part of it is, okay, where do we think we can have impact with our money, but also our networks, and also what's going to be the most, you know, the biggest problem and hopefully the biggest opportunity for these companies to grow.
Thanks, Laura. So I'm going to move on to Greg, and I know that KPOR leverages technology, software, data, and some of the things that Laura was mentioning around kind of the financial inclusion side. Could you speak to that in this currently COVID world?
In terms of how we're working and finding companies? Yeah, I mean, we've for years had a open application process on our website. And so folks have continued to apply, and we're still reviewing every single one of them. Most people think that it's a robot reviewing them. I can assure you it's a human. It's usually me. So I do read every single one of them. So for us, these are problems that don't go away in a pandemic. The problems of, a lack of access to affordable financial services, or a lack of access to quality, affordable healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. Some of these are structural issues where we have to, work within the larger superstructure of society and government to work through, and VCs aren't always capable of playing in that world, and that's okay. And some of it's, in market land. And so we can figure out how to innovate and support folks that are in the innovation seat, so to speak. So we're still doing that. We just made a commitment last week. So like it was all virtual, like all that stuff. But yeah, so I think that it's really a focus on what's the problem we're trying to solve here. And then you apply all the VC and software kind of lenses on top of it, and then go from there. So, do your job, everybody. That's kind of how I think about it.
It sounds like everyone, all of the investors on this call have not slowed down. You're still dealing in this moment. So that's great news for the founders that are listening in. Denmark, I want to switch gears with you right now and ask you and a few others, how has the anti-racism awakening impacted your work?
Oh, I think that's a fantastic question. One of the things that we've been talking about for a while, just in terms of thesis, is that, aspirationally, we've been looking for a future that's more female, colorful, conscious, and connected. That's where we've been for years. And so we've been focused on culture as one of the primary areas that we want to make sure that we're being not only thoughtful, but actually use as a lens for filtering not just opportunities, but people we want to invest alongside and invest with. And so when you start to think about anti-racism, what you're really doing is you're taking the conversations that we've been having around diversity for the last 5 years to a much more focused and specific level. I think one of the things that's been very helpful for us is that we've got a number of portfolio CEOs and founders who are actually thoughtful about this. And I'm not just talking about the Black ones. They are also thoughtful about this, but they've kind of been born with it. So they had an advantage on being thoughtful about it. They have more experience. But we have a number of other founders who are not Black who have been, very thoughtful. And even if they weren't necessarily well-versed or well-read, they were eager to learn. They were trying to do the right thing. They took the coaching where it was available, and they asked for help where they felt like they needed it. And so for us, one of the things that we try to do is we try to make sure that we're being supportive of our portfolio companies where possible. We're trying to engage with investors that we currently co-invest with, and some that are just interested in reaching out now. And we've had a number of people who have reached out and said, hey, we realize that we don't talk much, but we think that we're value aligned and values aligned. We should probably think about whether there's some things that we can do together. And so we talk through those issues. So the investors is a second group. And we're also very focused on, being a good advisor to people in the ecosystem who just want to talk through it, right? And so our affiliation with a number of groups who focus on diversity, so one of whom is sort of Cultureship Labs, but there are others who've been doing diversity work is another way that we sort of triangulate to this conversation. But being values aligned and culture focused is something that we've always been. And now we find that this is just an opportunity to have more specific and better conversations about how to do this work in a thoughtful way.
Okay, I'm going to ask also if anyone wants to chime in at any point, feel free to have a dialogue here. Happy to have anyone chime in. But I wanted to pick up on that and ask Maureen the same question, but also, do you have any specific metrics now that you didn't have in January, given this new awakening?
It's a great question. So a little bit of background, 33% of our money and our companies are for underrepresented CEOs. Then That includes African American, Latino. It does include the Far East. It does not include the Far East, but it does include Middle East and India. And also we have more than 33% of our money and number of companies going to women CEOs. And our founding teams are quite diverse, but it's not enough. So we have been measuring that for a while. So, you know, we're very different from the typical VC market, but I'd like to get those numbers. We'd all like to get those numbers up. One of the things we are thinking about, so right now we're just 5 managing partners with 1 associate. We're very top heavy. We have made it a focus to hire when we raise our next fund, and we're in the process of that, and we are hiring some more junior folks to really focus on diversity there. There's an initiative, All Raise. If the women on the team have heard of All, or on the phone, have heard of the group All Raise for women in VC. They actually did a, put out job descriptions, collected job descriptions, and put that out specifically for firms looking for women of diversity for the VC market. So that's something that we'll be looking into when we can afford to hire. We're excited about that. Did I answer your question? I think there was another part.
It sounds like you already were tracking that in your fund, and so that's continuing.
Yes, we although we're going to be tracking more things, you know, it has brought awareness, more awareness. Not that we weren't aware, and we do have diversity already, but you know, we want to look like America, right? And we don't quite yet look like that. We're working on it though.
Anyone want to chime in right now?
Well, I will. We're pretty big firm. You know, we got a lot of money at work all the time. Somewhere around $3 billion over the life of the fund. But we've always been concerned about, from the inception, investing in tough places, small businesses that can go from small to big, innovative businesses that can go from innovation to small to big. That's what we're looking for, because our metric is really driving high growth for high wage, high benefit, high wealth creating opportunities. That's the metric that we really look at. What kind of jobs are you going to create? How much are they going to pay? What difference are they going to make for the people who take on those jobs? So that really has deepened when the rest of the world started looking at places where we've been looking a long time that are really distressed, and realize that you got to put some money there to capitalize business growth. So just drilling down hard. I'm the chief impact officer. I say if we can't count it, we didn't do it. But then on the internal side, we've been abysmal in terms of diversity. And we just hired a chief talent officer, a woman of color, and really have turned the mirror internally to say, okay, now you've got to really, we're putting money where we want it to go, but you got to have people inside of the organization that are helping you do that. So that's what this moment has really forced us to own up to, stop hiding behind what we're doing good investing, and say, yeah, but you need to do that with more people who look like the communities that you're working in.
I'd also love to jump in here. And Sandy, she's a great, and Advantage Capital, they're a great partner of ours at HBCU-VC, as well as K4 Capital. So nice to see some of our friends and partners, you know, here today. But yeah, I think this moment has been really interesting for us, given that our work has always been grounded around racial equity and creating wealth in Black and Brown communities. And so this, you know, it's all about sort of the long-standing systemic change. We really play the long game at HBCU-VC. We're training students to be investors, and we know that, you know, you're not going to be a VC after 2 years of a fellowship program, but it's about exposure and access and relationships and network, et cetera, which we all know is really important in this industry, so that we can bridge that gap between, you know, access to capital for Black and Brown innovators. And so this moment has been really interesting for us, because we've had more inbound in the last 3 months. I mean, what is this, August? That was, you know, George Floyd was murdered on May 25th. The last 2.5 months, 3 months, than we have in the last 3 years, right? So it's just this interesting moment where I think people are really, we're calling it an awakening, a reckoning, whatever, in this industry and across industries. How do we do better? How can we sort of leverage this moment to create systemic change and not use this moment to, fundraise, and then after this year, that this moment is over and we go back to where we were before May 25th. So that's sort of what we've been thinking about a lot and strategizing around. So it's really interesting given we've already sort of been based in this culture and doing racial equity work in this industry.
I'll just add that, I think that I felt like I was rolling pretty well with the pandemic. Honestly, it's this terrible thing, but I'm a mom. I'm working in a female-owned fund. We're still doing our thing, and then all the racial equity stuff and the size and significance of those problems really hit me super hard. And even with the and so I can only imagine how it was for the Black and Brown sisters and brothers on this call and elsewhere. But I do think that TSEF has been working hard on these issues for a long time, but to what Maureen said, we just also feel like it's not enough. So if you were here last year, you would have heard me say 2/3 of our founders are women and minorities. And we've always felt really great about that. But we took that kind of deeper dive and said, okay, so we've invested 4 out of 18 founders were Black men. That's fabulous. We do not have a single Black woman founder in our portfolio. And that's like horrifying, right? I mean, it's like, how did that happen? And so I think we've really tried to push ourselves to not be content, even though we have been focused on these issues, that it absolutely is not enough. And then the other change I think we made, we're much more proactively now pushing our portfolio companies on these issues. I'm a big believer in you get what you measure. And so even asking the questions of the portfolio companies more actively now really does focus attention that, look, we care about this and we're going to be asking you this quarterly. And so if you want to, if you want to be telling us the right kind of story, you have to be improving on these metrics as well. And so I think that's I think looking more granularly and being not afraid to kind of say, all right, we've done well here and we haven't done well here, and really try to actively pursue better investments or investments with the underrepresented populations. And then the last thing I'll add is we're also a member of an organization called Impact Capital Managers, which is a group of commercially oriented funds that also care deeply about measurable positive impact. And they have really helped curate a bunch of resources around Black and Brown founders, as well as fund managers. And so we're actively going through and there's a bunch of them that have been circulating on Medium and elsewhere, but we're really trying to go actively into some of these Google Docs where diverse founder names are being shared, and say, hey, here are the ones that fit squarely with our thesis. Here are the ones that are adjacent, but let's lean in and let's kind of see if once we talk to them, they're doing something that's close enough to what we care about for the low to moderate income population that it makes sense in the portfolio. And so that's going to take time, but those are the types of actions I think we're taking in response.
And I'll just add, even before the new movement, which really is not new, we are part of a group called Future Funders that's run by Left Tackle Capital. For any of the folks out there who are thinking of raising a VC fund, they're particularly focused on women and underrepresented folks that are creating VC funds. So right now, I think they have about 12 of us in the first cohort. Half are women and half are men, and probably about half are people of color. So it's a good group for thinking of creating a new VC. Introduce you to them if you're.
That's great. And if you could, all of you, any of you, if you have any of these Google Docs or shared resources, what you just mentioned, Maureen, a link to that, please put it in the chat box. Perhaps we can kind of consolidate that information for the attendees. So we are running out of time, and I am sad because this has been a great conversation. So I'll just ask each of you to give us one piece of advice you would like to provide the founders and other investors listening in right now, your last thought of the day, and then we're going to break out into groups where we can have an in-depth Q&A on a one-to-one level with each of you. Okay, I will start with Greg.
Thanks, Marilyn. Oh, just one piece of parting advice. Honestly, I think the context here is nobody knows what's going to happen, right? Like, I've tried to find the smartest people in the world to talk to about like where the pandemic's going to go, where the economy is going to go. Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. So with that as the pretext, I would say just do your job. Like, there's no way to plan for like navigating complexity. So just double down on what you know is going to work and just keep doing that.
Thank you. Sandy.
Remember that investors invest in people, and investors make their money based on having deals. So bring your deals forward and understand that the first part of the conversation is really about building the rapport. I haven't seen a deal yet go where half the MDs thought, oh, I wouldn't want to do business with that person. So remember, we invest in people with great ideas who believe in themselves. Bring that energy forward and don't be afraid to ask for what you want, not exactly what you need. And too often I see particularly women and people of color ask for barely enough to do what they need to do. And then we wonder, do you have faith in what you're doing? Because you certainly aren't evaluating it in a way that makes us believe that. Too much, but want to share.
Thank you so much. I echo that so much. Denmark.
Yes, I think that's fantastic advice. I think that to complement that, one of the things that I think is important is to not only establish rapport, but also to ask the questions to clarify the conversation. And specifically, if you're an entrepreneur going into a venture capitalist, there's going to be some questions around, well, what is their focus and where are they in their fundraising cycle, and really pre-qualifying types of conversations that hopefully you've done before you got there. But even when you get there, it's important to understand, hey, we're in the middle of a pandemic, a recession, a racial awakening. How are you thinking about your investment allocations now? Are you doing more internal investment to support your portfolio? Are you looking at specific opportunities? Have you changed your volume? Have you changed your pace? Just to get as much information as possible to kind of understand who and what you're dealing with, I think is important. And to make it easy for investors, because I think that one of the things that happens is, investors kind of approach things with their own frame. And so when you step outside of that frame, what you really need to do is almost serve as like a UN translator between the way you view the world and the way everybody else views the world, and making that as easy as possible for them to interpret is often the thing that's important. I think a lot of times entrepreneurs think, hey, you know what? They're smart people, they'll figure it out. The easier you make it for people to figure out, the better.
Oh, sorry, Laura. Did I come through?
Yeah, no, sorry. I mean, I guess my words of advice are don't take silence from VCs personally, and don't hesitate to kind of nudge and get back in front. I mean, I think especially at small firms, we often get overloaded with a lot of traffic, and that doesn't feel good to be ghosted. I'm also raising money right now as a female, fund manager at a small fund. Like, it sucks to get ghosted. I get it. It happens to us too. But I think that being able to kind of remove any kind of personal feelings about that from just kind of, it's a pandemic, people are busy, you don't know what their home situation is, and just kind of keep trying and stay in front. And then I think from our side, we do try to close things off when we decide that something isn't going to fit our thesis, or maybe is too early for us. We tend to be a Series A investor. We'll try to give that feedback directly so that we stay in touch with people. But I think that's the hard part of this, and it's unfairly hard for this group of people, I think. And so just keep at it. And I hope I believe actually the world is changing right now. And so I think that this is a moment that we can all kind of double down and try to lean in.
Maureen.
Sure. I'd like to say keep going. Tenacity and persistence is 9/10 of, probably 99% of all these games. To Laura's point, both for us as GPs who are raising now a third fund, and but as well as the VCs. I think it's really important to remember that last year there was more fundraising into VC firms than ever before. So there is money there. Go for it. Don't take no for an answer. You will get no's. You might get 100 no's, but if you get 5 yeses out of those hundreds, just keep going. And that's probably going to be your statistic, frankly. So don't take it personally. You just haven't found your match yet. And to Denmark's point, really do your homework to figure out which of the VCs are more likely to invest in what your technology or what your startup is about. It's all about building bridges. And sometimes if we suffer from not having the same background, the same ethnicity, the same school, the same country club, right? I don't have a country club. If we don't have all that stuff, then let's build bridges on the technology, on what you're investing in. So find the VC who has invested in things similar to you and build a bridge, and don't take no for an answer.
Great. Okay, and last but not least, Chelsea.
Oh, last, this is tough. Yeah, everyone made great points. I think for me, I've been thinking about this a lot. Yeah, just really leveraging this moment. I think, especially at the early stage, it's known that sort of in VCs like to have teams that are 100% committed to their company, where teams are living in the same place. I think, the world is changing. And so we are thinking through, how do you have to dedicate 100% of your time to your product during a global pandemic with your kids in the background? I don't know. Do you have to live in the same place as your team? None of us are with our team. Most people aren't with our teams. So I don't know. I think leveraging this moment, getting in front of people, so many people are willing and ready to jump on Zoom and have a quick chat to start building trust and relationships. And so I think now is a great time to be doing that. I think if you couldn't afford to fly to SF or New York or Boston, this is a good time to not have to do that. So yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I think we're going to be sent to breakout rooms right now.
Yeah, before we move over to the breakout rooms, I first like to thank Marilyn for moderating this panel. Marilyn is one of my board of advisors of my company, COI Energy. So thank you, Marilyn. And then I also like to thank all of the investors, because we selected you because of your passion about this very topic that we're discussing over the next couple days with female founders and Black founders. So thank you very much for what you do and for sharing your knowledge and your resources to help us elevate female founders to the next level. So while I'm here talking, we're going to have a poll launched, and it's probably launched already. So if the attendees could please complete the poll. I also wanted to give a heads up to some of the founders that were on the wait list for pitching your pitch practice tomorrow. We have a few spots that opens up. And so if you're interested in attending any of those spots, please direct message on the chat, the moderator, and they'll make sure they get you signed up for that for tomorrow. This is a great opportunity really to get your pitch together based on what you learned yesterday from Christine on how to pitch how to do a perfect pitch. So definitely take advantage of that. Make sure you're prepared. Everything is being live streamed on YouTube. So if you didn't get to hear her session, just review that so you're best prepared for the pitch practice tomorrow. And there's a few of the investors that are on this panel today that will be working with Christine to help give you positive feedback to move your business forward. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the breakout sessions.
Yes, really, really great panel session. I just want to moderate that. That's, I'm sorry, I want to reinforce that. It was a really, really informative, really great to be able to talk to all of you. I just want to let all the attendees know. So we did have one more speaker for this session, Nicole J. Walker, but she experienced some really inclement weather yesterday out in Chicago. So she won't be able to connect with us today. So we're going to take about a 10-minute break. We're going to give all of our panelists here a chance to get over to those breakout rooms to get set up. In the chat, I have placed the digital agenda. So if you don't have that readily available, click that link. That'll take you to the digital agenda. You can download that. And there you will see a breakout of all of the different sessions we're going to be having today. You will see a little breakdown of that. It's really simple to get there. You're just going to click on the link to go into the room of the person you want to talk to, or the organization you want to talk to. Once you're in those breakout sessions, they really are designed for you. They're designed for you to ask questions, to seek out more resources. They're designed to be more intimate conversations about the things that you want to know about. So I cannot stress enough, please take advantage of this time. I think we've allocated about 40 minutes or so for that. So download the agenda, find the session you want to go to. If you want to attend more than one session, that is perfectly fine. You can leave any session anytime you want, go to another session. Please, please, please take advantage of this time to speak to these folks here who are here to help all of us to move forward and to get ahead. Thank you so much. If you're on my panel, I'll let you guys go. I'll let you guys start heading off to your breakout rooms. And for everyone else, we're going to get started in the breakout rooms here in about another 5 or 6 minutes or so. So head on over to that. And then after the breakouts, we'll see you back here for the main session. Thank you so much, everyone.